So I know that this video is a little bit late, but I completely forgot that I hadn't done the last quarterly wrap up for last year. It's pretty much the middle of January, kind of, sort of, but hopefully it's fine. I didn't read too many books in the last 3 months of last year just because I had to do a lot of knitting because I gave myself too many knitting projects to do at once. And so I've only got 4 books and I only own one of them physically because the first one I read on ebook, and then the second and third I listened to on audio, and then the last one I read physically. So the first one was actually a reread for me, and that book is By Your Side by Casey West. I read this on my Kindle. I used to have a physical copy. I don't know where it is. It might still be at my parents'. I'm not too sure, but I wanted to reread it because I just wanted like a really sweet kind of romance, and I hadn't read Casey West in a while, so I picked this up and I enjoyed it. There was a lot I didn't remember for whatever reason in my head. So that book, I guess I'll explain. That book is about this girl who is, first of all, it's a romance. It's a contemporary YA romance. It's about this girl who has a lot going on in her life, and she is planning to go on some sort of winter, not spring break, like some sort of winter trip with her friends for whatever break that they have. And they decide to go up to the cabin, but like it's almost like just sort of like a long weekend thing that they have, so there is still like assignments that they need to get done. So beforehand they were all doing their assignments at the library, and then they were just gonna kind of like leave from there. But the thing is, she forgets something inside the library, and the library's about to close, and she goes in, and then she gets locked inside the library. And she thought she was all alone, and then it turns out that there's this other guy that's there who's in her class. He's a bit of a loner. She doesn't really know him very well, and it's sort of a romance between them. What I didn't realize was how little it was a part of the book that they spent time in the library. Like they get out of the library pretty quickly, and then like the whole part was just like them afterwards. And I think that might have been the reason why if I didn't keep the book, that might have been the reason why I didn't keep the book, because I didn't like what happened outside of the library. After that, I listened to Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is about this AF, which is like a robot. It's called Artificial Friend, named Clara, and she... So in this like robot world future or whatever, there are these kids that can buy these artificial friends to be their friend and accompany them. And there are these like gifted kids. I don't know, it's really hard to explain the whole synopsis without spoiling it. So it's if you've read Kazuo Ishiguro, it's just like a lot of his other books. There's a lot of mystery in the very beginning, and you don't quite know anything that's happening until you get to the very end. And it is obviously a lot of social commentary, which he does really well. I was anticipating this for a while, which is why I kind of put off reading it, because I thought that I would really like it. But just like Never Let Me Go by him, I really like the concept, I really like the plot and the idea and what he was trying to say with this book. There was just something about it that was missing, and I can never figure out what that is. So that's all I'll say on that one. And then after that, I read Britney Spears' new memoir, The Woman in Me. I listened to that on audio and I absolutely loved it. I love memoirs. I especially love these kind of like narrative non-fiction kind of memoirs. It reminds me a lot of like, well, I don't know if it reminds me a lot of Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mum Died, because I think Jeanette wrote that herself. This was obviously ghost written. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I really liked it. I don't know what to say. It's a non-fiction, so I don't know what to really tell you about it. She talks a lot about her life growing up and her relationship with her family, and she talks about her kind of being the pop star that she is, and like what it was actually like working and like performing and things like that, and how much she enjoys performing. And then she goes into the conservatorship, and yeah, I think I wanted a little bit more grit, which I feel really weird saying that because obviously she doesn't owe anyone anything, but it would have been really interesting to hear a little bit more in depth about her feelings, because I think it was a lot of like, this is what happened, and then she would kind of gloss over how she felt in certain parts. Certain parts she would be really detailed in it, but in other parts she would kind of gloss over it, and I don't know, I just kind of wanted more. But I really liked this memoir. If you're into memoirs, you should definitely read this one because I think it's interesting. And then lastly, I read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I did a whole book review reading vlog thing. It's all, there's spoilers in there, on this book, and I really like this book. It's the type of romance fantasy that I've been looking for, and yeah, I don't know what to say about this except for the fact that I really like it. It is about this girl named Evangeline Fox. She is heartbroken in the beginning of this book because who she thought she was dating, who she thought was the love of her life, ends up marrying her stepsister, and she is convinced, in this fantasy world, she's convinced that he's cursed of some kind. Like, there is no way that he didn't love her, and so she goes to the temple for the Prince of Hearts, and because he is known to be able to help with a broken heart or something. And then he's like, okay, I'll stop the, because she's like, oh, can you stop the wedding for me? And then he's like, okay, I'll stop the wedding, but you owe me 3 kisses. And that's kind of where the adventure starts, and I love it so much. I just finished reading the second book. I don't even want to go into it. It's too much. I don't want to talk about it right now, but yeah, definitely I will say it does get better as the books go on, but this one is very good too if you're in the mood for some like whimsical kind of no structure kind of fantasy. Like, I consider this as like that kind of like whimsical fantasy where there isn't really like a magic system, there's no science behind it, because I hate that in fantasies. This is like one of those things where it's like, yeah, the bells just kind of like speak to you, and they have a mind of their own, and archers can like get into your thoughts and tell you things, and you know, that kind of stuff. If you're into that kind of fantasy and you like a little bit of romance, I highly recommend this one. Anyway, that is it for me. Let me know if you've read any of those books. Let me know your thoughts down below, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you next time.